Right. Welcome, everyone, to Ruslan Bortnik YouTube channel in English. My name is James Talberg, and I'm here today again with Ruslan, going to discuss the latest about Ukraine and around Ukraine. Ruslan, it's been a while. It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm also I very love this ability to talk with you again. Thank you very much, James, for helping me to discover the situation in Ukraine and around Ukraine. Thank you very much. I hope these holidays, New Year's, Christmas, and so on, holidays were successful or very pleasant for every of our viewers.
Yeah, and we're coming back into work with positive energy and better expectations that we've got into it. We have a few things that I want to cover with you and discuss. And obviously, I want to start with Trump's inauguration. Today is the 23rd of January. 3 days ago, Trump was inaugurated and got into the office. He already signed a couple of proposed bills and initiatives. But before we get into that, what is your opinion in general about the inauguration? And specifically about the situation about the Ukrainian president not being present during the inauguration. He wasn't invited. He didn't initiate the will to participate by himself. What's happening in that perspective?
Of course, we could say that only a small amount of world leaders were invited to this inauguration. And it's true. And but at the same time, we saw the posts of Trump younger about that Ukrainian side was trying to get this invitation and to get into the inauguration for many times. And new Trump's administration declined this attempt. So it looks like a humiliation of Ukrainian side. Moreover, these statements from the Trump side about that Zelensky is ready to peaceful process, he is ready to accept agreement and so on.
Is he actually, can I pause you here, is he actually ready to negotiate and accept a potential peace resolution?
No, of course. Ukraine is just preparing for a very hard negotiation, trade process. But these statements of Trump, Trump's statements, it's continuation of this humiliation. Because if Zelensky is ready to accept everything, that it means that there is no any necessity to negotiate with
it's pointless to talk with him.
Yeah. So it looks like that Trump is trying to just to vanish Zelensky from this stage of negotiation process. And just to postpone him to the latest stages and to free up space for free this road to the straight connection and straight negotiation with the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin.
What do you think we can expect from the first 100 days of Trump's presidency? He's very hype right now, and he already signs a few bold laws and propositions. For example, he decided to pause or postpone international aid to American allies. What can we see and what can happen in the first 100 days of his presidency?
I am some enthusiastic because of Trump's presidency, but only because it means the change in the United States strategy toward Ukraine. It means that there will be some kind of exit strategy from this war because Biden's administration looked like Biden's administration just stuck in the Ukrainian situation and was not going to change anything. It means for me, like Ukraine, continuation of the war, suffering of more people and loses and so on and so on. But I'm very scary about such euphoria which we are seeing now in United States society and United States establishment.
And I would even say the Western world, because everybody's expecting now that this wave of like conservative revolution will start from the US and move all across the Western world, like Canada, European Union.
Yes, I even was talking with my friend who is a big supporter of Trump, And he said me yesterday, you know, I lost a lot of money now because I bought Trump coin, and it lost its value capacity, and I lost a lot of money, but I am not disappointed. I've asked him, why? What is going on with you? You are very careful when we are talking about the money. And it looks like an unreasonable euphoria. And I think it could lead situation to very deep disappointment in some time. And it will be like mountains all the time, gaps down, up,
like a
down.
roller coaster.
Up, down, and it means future destabilization, not only political system and trade, but also general public stability of Western society in the future. There is a significant risk for it. If we are talking about this 100 day, about honeymoon of the Trump, of course, he will try to achieve his main goals during this honeymoon, because he is able to do everything, and no one is able to really resist to Trump approach during this honeymoon.
So what in your opinion are his goals for those 100 days?
There is one main goal. It's a destruction of deep state, but in very wide consideration. Not only deep state in the United States, but also liberal governments in Western world. If we are talking about German, Great Britain, or maybe France government, they are also under the fire. Now we can see these statements of Musk, for example. Musk will be this arrow which will be not only destroying the deep state inside the United States, but also this liberal global liberal union abroad. This is the main goal, because achieving this goal will open for Trump, will untighten his hands, and will open the road to do everything for a long time in the United States. Maybe it will open even the second term for the next Republican candidate to the next presidential election. So there is a strategic goal to break this deep state. The second goal is to break the old world order. And maybe I will be brutal now. I'm trying to exalt this situation, if you understand what I'm talking about. But I think, and it's very weird for me, that these goals are uniting Trump and Putin. But from different reasons, they can do the same job. They are trying to destroy the after Second World War world order. But Putin just wants to become a geopolitical state, to become a geopolitical leader. Otherwise, Trump wants to break all the ties which tightened him when the United States was looking for the balance with Soviet Union. This is one part. And the second part, he's trying to break all these unbalanced partners with allies in Europe and everywhere in the world, because that allies were very necessary for United States when Soviet Union existed.
Are you referring to NATO allies, that he's always saying that he's sponsoring them and he doesn't think that he needs them anymore?
I'm talking about the security allies inside NATO, outside of NATO, because it will be a problem not only for NATO countries, for European countries, but this will be a problem for Japan, US, South Korea, and so on. Let's believe. And I'm talking about the unbalanced economical ties. When allies, it was a kind of Marshall Plan, continuation of United States Marshall Plan for Europe, when a lot of European partners of United States had a great connection to American market, to United States market, had a very good entrance to United States markets, were able to sell a lot of goods there, to earn a very huge money in American markets, but the United States was not able to compensate in European market its own losses, and so these old partnerships, these old balances, Trump will try to destroy or to rebalance, to rebuild during his 100 days. And of course, the third important blocks of Trump's goals for the first 100 days for his honeymoon. It's a very famous announced goals like Greenland, like Russian-Ukrainian war, like migration, illegal migration in the United States, like classical conservative social assumption. I'm talking about the man and woman.
Yeah, he said from now on we're going to only have two genders.
Yeah. This is very famous goals that were announced, stated many times in public. He will try to achieve, but this is only a third block of goals. It's not his main goals. It's very touchable things, very important when we are talking about the PR, from PR side, but they are not crucial for Trump if you are talking from political consideration and about his future.
So something that you've said sounds very interesting to me. You said that he's going to try and build a new world order. Correct me if I'm wrong. In my perspective, we always have a new world order after a big global war, right? Like we see massive destruction, like after the World War II, and then main countries who won in that war are coming in together and being like, we don't want that destruction anymore. Let's come up with new rules, with new agenda, with new frameworks that we all going to participate and play in. I don't see that big war. We have a conflict in Ukraine and Russia. We have a conflict in the Middle East, but we don't have a world war. We might have international conflicts where we do have third parties participating in conflicts, but it's not near close to the Second World War. Not that I want that to happen or I'm expecting that to happen, but how do you see potentially Trump building that new world order without destructing the old one? Or he's going to destruct, and if he's going to destruct the old one, how he can do that without a massive war?
It's a very important question, and I don't want to simplify it, because the destroying of old world order doesn't mean, for example, destroying of United Nations organization or some another organization. But this organization, like United Nations, will play another role in this new world order. And it means that such international structures and agreements which United States had in previous time, in circumstances of which United States operated previous time, will not work in the future. It means that Trump is coming back to bilateral relation, to the estimation, evaluation of every relation, even with the nearest friends and nearest allies, re-estimation, re-evaluation, and audit of this relation. It's a bilateral relationship world. And you're exactly right that the risk of the new world war is going up in this situation. And sometimes when we had a destruction of this old world order, we had a world wars, because a destruction of European old order before the First World War leads us to that war. Destruction of the League of Nations leads us to the Second World War. And now we have the same risk, but not all the times, destruction of world order leads us to the world wars. More possible scenario for nowadays that nowadays destruction of world order will lead us to a significant amount of regional conflicts, hybrid wars, and to significant amount of internationalized wars, which are regional if we are talking about the geography, but
with third-party participants.
A lot of countries are taking part in these wars. The borders of these new empires will be firing, will be flaming, firing, will be destroying, and but at the same time, Trump is sure, and he will try to keep the silence and keep the security inside of the United States, like another leaders of possible leaders of these new empires, like Putin inside of Russia, Xi Jinping inside of China, Erdogan, India's leaders, and so on and so on. But the borders of these countries will be very unstable, and the regions which are the subjects of the goals of geopolitical competition also will be destabilized.
Let's open up even a little bit more into that, change of the world order. We started from saying that he's going to try and do that in the first 100 days when he has barely resistance from the Congress, and he'll be able to push whatever he wants to push, because just like you mentioned at the beginning, the American people are in a state of euphoria, and they're like going to support him. Plus, it looks like their expectations and his goals are matching, right? Like what they're expecting, this is what he wants to deliver. But I still want to clarify a couple of things here. It doesn't sound to me like you can do something like that in 100 days, not even a year. Like, even if we're not going into a big full-scale war, to me, it looks like it can take 5 to 10 years before this new world order can, be built, right? So how do we connect his opportunities, his abilities, I'm talking about Trump, that he's going to try and push it in 100 days to an actual build of this new world order? Or he will just trigger that trend and it will last for 5-10 years?
Trump will try just to push the stone from the mountain, just to move this big stone, and then the gravitation, geopolitical gravitation, will
so he just wanted to trigger it.
Will pull this stone down because of just a gravitation, because of competition and a lot of crisis between the countries, between the main states and societies and trade systems and so on. What I'm most worrying about, if we're talking the inauguration even day, if we're talking about the statement of the Trump on the inauguration, I'm worrying about two things. The first thing, Trump feels like a chosen person. He said the
God chose him. Yeah,
it saved me for a special mission, and he truly believes he's chosen man for a special mission. So no one can resist him, because it means that person will resist God. God approach. It's a very, very, very strong position, very strong, very hard, very narrow, and very dangerous.
It's dangerous because you cannot argue that, because it's not rational.
Yeah, because it's not me. Just God behind my back, and that's all. Yeah. And the second thing, it was very worrying for me. It was the phrase of Trump during inauguration. He said that United States will be stronger and bigger. No one noticed this bigger word.
So what can that mean in practice? Can he actually push the agenda of taking Greenland, for example?
Yeah, we discussed with you the Greenland, the Panama, and so on, so on. It means it's not just a words. It's a real strategic goal of the Trump to buy Greenland.
How possible it is, though, in reality? You're breaking this whole like agenda of not changing borders in the Second World War. How in reality, like technical thing.
If you are talking about the Greenland, it will be some kind of proposition to Danish government. And if this government will decline this proposition, you will see that Greenland will announce independence in the under the influence of the United States. And that independent state can be like another states inside of United States, become a greater federal state of United States of America, or made a special agreement with United States, like Costa Rica, for example. There is a significant way. If we are talking about Panama, I think there will be a huge political influence and an attempt to review the agreement between the United States government and Panama government about the control over the Panama Channel. If we're talking about the Canada, I think it's not the first goal, but a huge influence, a huge involvement in Canadian deals also will make will push the Canadian government to go to a significant concessions toward the United States, and in future it also can open the road to the unification of
in like 20, 30 years or something, but like that initial.
I think
it
could be even much more or less.
But I can tell you, go ahead.
This new world order will hurry up a lot of processes. And if you are talking about the normal time, of course, this process of unification of the countries could lead decades. If you are talking about this hurry time of building of new order, it could happen during the 3-5 years. It could happen very fast. If you're talking about
so that was actually one of my questions. What is your timeline for that new world order establishment?
I think Trump will start this process, and it will be reestablished this new world order during the next 10 years.
10 years. So let's say from 2025 to 2035.
Yeah. During the next 10 years, it could be established, this new world order. But Trump will make he is destroyer in this way, and he will make non-liable this old world order. He's doing to grow that we have to make this just unpleasable, unusable, and so on, to make this old world order just dead, to make it dead, and it will open the road to the new world order.
So this is what controversial from my perspective. I'm sorry we're going a little bit out of Ukraine, but I will lead it at the end how that will influence Ukraine as well, because Ukraine will be stuck between new empires that are emerging in the region, new old empires. But before we get to that, I just want to resolve that controversy. Trump in his inauguration said, "I'm going to bring peace. I want to leave a peaceful legacy. I want to negotiate deals." But that's not what's going to happen in practice when you're trying to build a new world order.
Yeah, but peace through the strength. You remember?
Through destruction.
No, he said, "I'm going to bring the peace, but through the strength, through the power, through the influence of another states, through the punishment, the pushment of another states." I understand it accepts by American audience very, very extremely good, very exciting things. But in real life, of course, it leads to the conflicts, to a lot of conflicts between United States and other countries, and you see even
escalating the existing conflicts.
Escalating existing conflicts. You see already these new tariffs, trade tariffs, even for the neighbors and so on. It's a way to the escalation of a lot of conflicts. But Trump is sure that these conflicts will be
beneficial.
beneficial and abroad, outside of United States, and they will not touch the internal United States economical growth and stability.
So basically, the peace and the prosperity that he's promising, it's for the Americans.
Yes, I don't know how to say it correctly, but it's like you have a castle on the mountain, and everything around of you is distracted, burning, distracted. Trump said that he is going to build United States castle on the mountain.
So now I want to go back to Ukraine. Here's my perspective, how it can potentially look like. If we're talking about an establishment of a new world order, I think the trend is going to be that we have new old empires picking up on that empire agenda again. United States wants to be an empire. As you've mentioned, Trump said, we want to be bigger, right? Then we have Turkey that is basically now controlling the northern part of Syria. We obviously have the Russian-Ukrainian conflict when Russia already annexed officially 4 regions from Ukraine. In Ukraine, they call them oblasts. So when this is happening, you have 5, 6, 7 new old empires that are trying to gain strength, power, and influence. Everything in between is burning. What does that mean for Ukraine? Because Ukraine was the first, maybe not the first, I might be wrong, but it's just one of the most obvious borderlines between one empire and another empire. How Ukraine will live those 5-10 years?
Maybe not everything is burning, but everybody should choose the side. And everything between this empire will be changing. Change will be destabilizing. And if you are talking about Ukraine, it depends on the model of behaving of Ukraine. If Ukraine will stay in the role of frontier between the West and East, there is a huge risk for Ukraine to be destroyed in general terms and to disappear like a functional, prosperous for the middle level state in the future. There will be a significant risk. The only way for such countries like Ukraine, which are between these huge blocks of the state, these new empires, is to exclude themselves from this geopolitical game, to become neutral, to become very weaponized, to become nuclear, to find the model. There are a lot of models for this. To find the model how to exclude themselves from that game, how to avoid of using its own territory and people in this geopolitical confrontation and wars. The countries which will not be able to exclude themselves from this geopolitical competition, many of them will disappear and become a part, or a real part, formal or informal part of these new empires.
I was watching Trump answering to one of the journalists asking about the situation in Ukraine and Russia. And he's been asked if Russia is not going to negotiate, will Trump apply more sanctions? He said, high likely. So Trump is planning to have a conversation with Putin, either a phone conversation or maybe they're planning to meet in person. I'm not quite sure what's the agenda and what they're aiming to do. But what if Putin is actually going to resist and going to be like, I don't want to stop. I'm doing well. And Trump is going to start applying sanctions.
It's not a signal, just my earphones trying to fall down from, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's not a signal. And I think Trump is trying to look like a very strong man. But in any case, he will find a resist from many sides, inside of the United States, outside of the many states. a lot of parties and countries will be playing against of Trump. And if you are talking about sanction against Russia, it is highly likely. Sanction, I think, I don't think that Trump was able to worry Putin, to surprise Putin with these talks, because the level of trade between the United States and Russia is extremely low. Biden and Biden's administration made everything possible to cut this trade. So if you are cutting trade, you are cutting the ties,
the potential influence,
and your influence also. If you're
Ruslan, but I think what he was referring to is not to apply just sanctions towards directly Russia, but third parties.
Also for third parties, and it means the confrontation with that third parties. Is Trump ready to have a deeper confrontation with China? Maybe, and it could be a reason to sanction some Chinese company. But if we're talking about the India, is Trump ready? I don't think so. If you're talking about Turkey, I don't think so. If we are talking about the Saudi Arabia, I don't think so. So Trump is not able to absolutely cut Russia from the international trade, because in every situation there will be a very necessary for United States partners which are keeping the trade also with Russia. So I think in some cases it will be a reason to make sanctions against some companies, maybe Chinese and other companies. But mostly, to be honest, it looks like the mostly sanction instruments and tools were exhausted during the previous United States administration, if we are talking about the influence on Russian Federation.
So if those negotiations will happen between Trump and Putin, as an analyst, what are you expecting? What outcome are you expecting to come out of these negotiations in terms of Ukraine? They're probably going to discuss other things, but in terms of Ukraine,
we'll start a big game, public and unpublic game. The public game, who will look the stronger in this negotiation, Putin or Trump or Putin, and so on. Maybe Macron and Zelensky and others also. And the unpublic game, it will be a very brutal and very concrete dialogue about the dividing the zone of influences. Because to be honest, we understand that the Russian goal is not occupation of Ukraine. Russia is trying to divide the zone of influence in the post-Soviet lands and Eastern Europe and so on. The United States goals now is not, to be honest, is not to just to bring the peace to Ukraine because people are suffering. Of course, it looks very good from the society, but it's not real goal. Real goal to cut the expenditures for Ukraine, to freeze Russia in Ukraine, to stay Russia stacked in Ukrainian lands with no any influence on Europe and so on. And to block Russia in Ukraine and to continue the competition, general competition with China, if we are talking about the artificial intelligence, economic trades, and so on. So I think there is only a small chance to find the final agreement, to find the new balance between United States and Russian Federation in the nearest 5 or even 10 years. Only a small chance, because they want the same things. They want to keep the control over the Ukraine, over the Eastern Europe. My American friends, American consul advisors, which I'm talking about Ukraine, they are very honest. They are saying that we are able to give Putin everything he wants, except of control over Ukraine, real control over Ukraine. If he wants to keep the captured lands, no problem. If he wants Russian language, or Russian church, no problem. If he wants Ukrainian absence in NATO, no problems. But no real control over Kyiv, over Ukraine.
Why is Ukraine so important for the United States?
Not so important, but they understand, not so important like Ukraine itself, but important.
I know, but from the perspective that they don't want to give up the control.
Because if the Putin will be able to get control over Ukraine, the Russian influences in the next day, just tomorrow, will be in the Eastern Europe, in Balkans, in the Baltic countries. Russia will start to restore its zone of influence, which will be comparing with the Soviet zone of influence. I will remind you that Russian Soviet soldiers were in Berlin. They had a Warsaw bloc, which captured all the Balkan lands, all the Eastern Europe, including Hungary, Poland, Czech, Slovaks, and so on. And moreover, it will provoke Putin to the continuation of the geopolitical competition with the United States in another front, in other lands. We are talking about the Middle Asia, we are talking about the Middle East, we are talking about the Africa, and we even are talking about the Latin America, for example, Venezuela or Cuba.
Or Cuba, yeah.
So the United States is ready to make a lot of concession to Russia, except of letting Russia go forward to Europe and unchaining Russia, if we are talking in the terms of geopolitical competition.
So when you're saying that the chances that Trump and Putin will negotiate a peaceful agreement for Ukraine is small, it's because United States of America, they don't want to give up the control over Ukraine to Russians, and B, because this is what Russians want.
Real control. It doesn't at the same time.
I know. I understand.
But it's very important. At the same time, United States is not ready to give the formal security guarantees for Ukraine or accept Ukraine to the NATO. They are not ready. We are talking only informal, real control.
So, as I was saying, and from Russian perspective, then if Russia accepts it, that they can bring their language back. Russian can be an official language in Ukraine. They can bring their church back. But that's not why Russia started this war. So basically, when you're saying that the chances are small, is because the chance is small. It's because that small chance only if Russia will accept those terms. It's an ultimatum from the United States of America. And if they're not, they will continue the war.
Yes. So because I think you saw a lot of publication in Western media last weeks about that Russian economy, that it's very weak and it's going to be
collapsing. Yeah, so they need to make a deal.
Yes, it's also kind of propaganda, but it has two reasons. This publication. The first reason.
So I just want to pause you. It's becoming funny because Russians are talking that the U.S. currency is going to collapse for the past 30 years, and the United States is like one step ahead before a big crisis. And now United States basically doing the exact same. They're saying one step ahead, Russia is going to collapse. They're doing extremely bad, and so on and so on. So they're kind of like balancing that propaganda now.
But there is two goals of this type, because we had a very huge wave of this publication. The first goal is to persuade Russia to decline its own goals in this war. And but it's very kids' goal, I can say. But another reason is more serious. It's an attempt to persuade the Trump and peacemakers to don't make any deal with Russia, because there is no any reason to make deal with Russia if Russia is going to be collapsed in few months, So it's also attempt to broke the peace making, this negotiation process.
But then you're basically saying that your opponents, that Biden was actually doing a good job by sending all this money to Ukraine and the military aid. right? Because you're basically justifying, well, I was criticizing them, but no, actually they did good, and Russia is in a horrible state right now, and we're just going to continue the exact same trend.
I will say one very dangerous maybe thing, but if we are talking about the geopolitical competition, the changing of a liberal administration in the United States, a liberal government in Europe, it's a Russian victory.
Yeah, because they're on the same page now in terms of changing the world order.
No one changed Putin in Russia. He was re-elected. No, we can have a discussion how free was the elections, but it doesn't matter now.
He stayed in power.
But he won. If we are talking about the Johnson, Biden, and many others who are now resigned, who are now out of system, we have a conservative pivot in the Western world, conservative revolution in the Western world, and this is one of the consequences of Russian-Ukrainian war.
Yeah, but I don't think that's Russia, going to be a good thing.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. We don't know still. But I want to say to show you what Russia is thinking about. They are saying, of course, we are not very successful, extremely successful in Ukrainian lands. We are not able to capture the Kyiv, to change the government. But we changed. We just vanished all our liberal opponents around the world, and now together with Trump, we will break this old world order.
I see your perspective, but can I say my perspective towards that? So, yeah, they can say that.
Sorry, yeah. James. I it's not my opinion. I'm just trying to transfer the Russian evaluation of the situation.
I understand. So just like my perspective,
they are feeling now like winners in this situation. They are not feeling losers in this situation. Be sure. Sorry.
So I think I understand their perspective. I agree that that's their perspective. My concern here is that they think that that's a good thing for them, but that's not.
Yeah,
because if in the Western society before, they had the Sleepy Joe and they had the liberal government where, they were like very skeptical in terms of acting or, just being bold, just playing the realpolitik type thing, right? They were like very, very hesitant, very careful, like very sleepy. Yeah. Now you triggered them to wake up. You've triggered their population to wake up, right? And now they did wake up partially. And we've got the conservative revolution in the United States. As you've mentioned at the beginning, now we have the new elected government, whoever they're going to use for that, Elon Musk or maybe somebody else, they will try and trigger and provoke the entire Western world, like the Great Britain, Germany, whoever else is there.
General mobilization of the society's gun government. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly, right? And trigger them to, mobilize their societies and also get into that conservative revolution. That's not a good thing for Russia, because now they will have governments that are more radical and are more eager to react.
Moreover, Russia is one of the weakest geopolitical players. If you are talking about the real abilities and tools of the
from
government,
our perspective,
and this player is exhausted a lot because of war. But you're absolutely right. But this sleeping jaw is waking up too late. We had no, in the previous time, we had no such a situation. We had no factor at China in previous time. We have not a bipolar world like it was. We have 3 or 4 or even 5 polar world now. Situation is much complex now, complicated.
No, I understand that
yeah.
it's more challenging for the West because it's too late to act. But I'm just saying that it's not a good thing for Russia. For Russia, it was a much better deal if the Sleepy Joe will remain sleepy and even fall asleep more.
Yeah, but for Russian society is very natural this feelings of fatum, a readiness to sacrifice for bigger goals, for civilization and for bigger political goals. You remember that words of Putin that we don't need the world without Russia.
Without Russia.
Yeah, and it's a part of a public opinion, public consciousness, to readiness to sacrifice for something bigger. It's a type of Russian geopolitical fatum, maybe, I don't know.
And maybe their society mentality that they're thriving when there are conflicts and
of course they are willing and they are planning to play this role of gold card, to play between the United States, China, and other players, and to defend its own backyard in Europe, to trade this lands in face of bigger geopolitical players, which will be clashing with each other.
Ruslan, I think we're going to push back the situation on the front line in Ukraine to a different episode. But before we finish, I would like to summarize everything that we've said today from from key points from your perspective. Trump is not going to have a lot of resistance for the first 90 days from the Congress and in general inside the United States.
He will achieve a lot of sabotage, but not resistance.
We can say that way. And you're saying that from your perspective, he's going to trigger the change of the world order. In key points, what does that mean for the world? You said already one key point that he's going to revisit the agreements between the United States and his allies, for example, European countries, etc. What are other key points that we can bring up to summarize how this world order is going to be revisited or changed by Trump?
I said that he will broke the biggest United States alliances, and he will trigger economical competition. If you're talking the international trade, he will trigger a lot of old conflicts. If he will achieve Greenland, it means he will trigger the border changes around the world, because nowadays we have more than 80 unresolved territorial conflicts in the world.
What are the main ones? I think it's interesting. What are the main ones? We have in Ukraine, we have the Middle East situation. What are other main border issues that were not resolved?
There is no almost one country, for example, in Africa, with stable, absolutely recognized, unconflicted borders. There is also borders problems in Latin America. You remember that even some countries were going to start a war during the last year. We have unresolved conflicts in the Middle East, and of course we have Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe, I'm not talking about even the Taiwan and so on, but we have a lot of unresolved conflicts if we are talking about the territorial control or old historical disappointments.
So we can basically say that in terms of the soft power, he's going to revisit the agreements with his allies, with United States allies, on a second, like a medium.
Yeah, but Trump, it doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean that Trump will only build this castle on the mountain and he will not go out from this castle. No. It means that he will build this castle on the mountain, but at the same time he will be very active on the international relations
arena.
Arena. He will say very often he will be opening the gates on this castle and sell the troops to resolve a lot of problems or to achieve national American interests. around this castle. Also, it will not be an isolation policy. It will be a policy of selfish policy, but with a very active presence, very brutal and active presence of international arena in any case.
And the second thing that I wanted to mention, so in your perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to summarize it. We'll have about 5, 6, 7 empires that are going to try to use the same concept to build a castle and deal with whatever they need to deal on the outskirts. And the situation between those empires in terms of the border will not be balanced, secure, and safe. That's where the destruction will happen. And the timeline here will be 5 to 10 years. So by 2035, 2030, 2035, we will see a potential new world order. But first, correct me if that's your perspective. And I have a question. Do you think that new world order, where we will have 5, 6, 7 new / old empires, is that a stable world order? Because I think bipolar situation.
I don't know. I don't know. We will see a frame of this world order, but the stabilization of this. But as any old or new world order, it will not be stable absolutely. It will not be stable in all the places. If we are talking the United States, Soviet Union time, you remember how many wars, hybrid wars they had. How many regions and countries were destabilized during that time? So it will be a new balance, new frame, but the competition will continue in any case in different tools in different regions. But between these competitors will be regions or countries who will be using like trade mediators, who will be using like buffer zones, who will be using like negotiation zones, like resting or relaxation zones. So there will be still a places for a middle or even small countries for their sovereignty, for their independence, and for their own way.
Ruslan, thank you so much for the chat today. And we'll be back next week with the summary and updates of the front line in Ukraine.
Thank you for such a great dialogue today, James. And dear friends, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Make for us like. Everybody who is viewing our channel, just saying for me, you need to more advertise in your channel because you are doing a great job. Thank you for support and don't forget to subscribe. Bye-bye and see you next time.
Thank you, Ruslan.